So today I'm just recording a short video just about what it means to be transgender and what the term transgender means. So most people, when they think of transgender, think of something like this, where effectively people are swapping from one gender, male to female, or vice versa, from female to male. What a lot of people aren't aware of is why people might want to do that. And so, gender dysphoria is a condition where people experience discomfort when they're assigned physiological sex. So, the gender or the biological sex they're assigned at birth doesn't then match how they feel and their gender identity. And this can lead to depression and anxiety and have a harmful impact on daily life, and in severe cases, be life threatening. So transgender was somebody who's suffering from extreme gender dysphoria. They may well actually go through a full transition. So if they were assigned male at birth, they may actually transition fully to become a trans woman, and so they would identify then as a woman. And they may actually drop the label trans woman and just refer to themselves as a woman. Or alternatively, somebody might be assigned female at birth and then actually transition to become a trans man, or refer to themselves as a man and drop the trans prefix. The other thing that people often aren't aware of is the options when it comes to transitioning, which is essentially what that prefix trans means. It means to transition, and there are options, and they are all optional. None of them are a required part of transitioning from one gender to another. So transition options might be social. So people might change their name. They might tell their friends they're no longer identifying as the sex that they were assigned at birth, and they actually have a different gender identity now. They might go through a legal transition. So they might change official documents like birth certificates, passports, and then in a work and in the public kind of space, become known as their new name and their new gender. There's also then medical transition, which might involve hormone treatments or surgical procedures. And to transition doesn't necessarily, people don't necessarily take those steps. So all of those steps are optional. People may take some of them, all of them, and possibly even none in terms of their own identity. So there is no requirement for anybody to transition to any degree or other. With the new non-binary movement, which I'm very much part of and behind, and the deconstruction of the gender binary, we are realizing that really gender is much more on a scale. It's much more fluid, and it's much less pink and blue than we might have been taught. And so you can see that from this gradated bar here in this diagram, which is showing male at the one extreme end, female at the other extreme end. And in the middle zone there, based on hormones and all sorts of different identity rationales, etc., are a group of people who class themselves as non-binary. Transgender, as an umbrella term, applies to those people who are actually going through medical transitions and illegal transitions, and also people who are wanting to transition to a non-binary gender. They may also undertake social, legal, or medical transitions, but it's not always just from male to female or female to male. Under the transgender umbrella are people identifying as non-binary who are transitioning from the sex, the physiological sex they were assigned at birth, and their new gender identity, non-binary. So there are some labels here. So for the binary kind of like transgender kind of setup, we've got transsexual, which is a term that some people like, some people don't. Transmedical. We've got transvestite or cross-dresser. These are people who aren't actually going to go through necessarily all of the changes, but they just enjoy expressing in the alternative gender. Trans man, trans woman, those are labels we may have heard. But as we said just earlier, they actually probably refer to themselves as man or woman and use pronouns he, him, or she, her. In the non-binary space, we have all sorts of different other terms. So we have gender non-conforming, we have gender queer, we have gender neutral, we have gender fluid, and we have agender. And so these people are people who were born and assigned at birth male or assigned at birth female, who are now crossing into this kind of middle territory, the non-binary territory. They would then be referred to as a man or a woman or a person, and their pronouns would be he, him, she, her, they, them, or sie, here, which is kind of another alternative kind of pronoun usage for people who consider themselves to be non-binary. So hopefully that's explained a little bit about transgender and explained a little bit about the overlap between transgender and non-binary. Um, Essentially, the transition, that term trans, is really just transition, and underneath that massive umbrella of transgender are all sorts of different orientations. The key is to ask people how they identify, the terms that they use to express themselves and to explain where they're coming from, and everybody's labels are different. I hope that helps.